Hello guys, this is Lucas again, and in this video I'm gonna show you how to make user create other objects in our application and save them to a database. Of course, everything we're gonna do test driven. Okay, so this is the point we really need to decide what our application is going to be doing. And I've been thinking about what is the most common application that we can build, and I thought perhaps some sort of blogging application is a good thing for now. We may change it later down the track, but it's really not important. I just want to show you how it works with something that can stay inside of our application when we develop it further. And those things that I'm going to show you today are quite fundamental and are good to understand because everything else, or most of the other things, is pretty much variation of this one. So today we're going to create new model, and we called it posts. Post, like, when you post it on your blog, and we'll make user be an owner of that post. So let's start in our command line in bash. Let's generate that new model. Rails generate model post. So we do the post with capital P, and right here we can already assign some attributes to that post. So we just give it content, and that will be text. We also give it user ID, and you will see very soon why this ID is necessary. Integer. And for now, that's probably it. It's hard for me to think what I need right now. If I need more and I don't have it, I don't generate it right now, I can add it later on. Let's press enter and see what Rails will generate for us. There's quite a few files. First one is the migration file. This is to change our database and add new model to it. There is a new model file where we define all abilities of our model, and there is two files in our spec in our test folder. First one is test for this model, and the other one is the factory file, because we already included factory girl in our gem file, and that created some functions, some factories. Great. Let's save. Let's add that to our Git for now. Oh, sorry. Let's run the migrations first. So rake db migrate, and rake db test prepare. Awesome. So if you, just in case, before you migrate, sometimes you may want to look at those migration files if they're correct, but the generator always works just fine, and you may want to skip it sometimes. Great. Right now we can move on and write some basic tests for our new model, some basic validations, and we can find that in our models spec, post spec right here. Okay, and here is the difference. When we used to create in our previous videos, when we used to create the model or the instance variable or the object for test, we used to do it this way. So we rewrote before, and instance variable, we would say post equals post new, and we would just pass some content to it. just like that. Okay, and that will work. This will take the post class and will create new instance of it, and we'll just give it the content of some content in this case. But we don't want the posts to be created this way. We want the users to create posts directly through their own model. So in here, we're going to do something different. First, let's make sure our factory girl knows how to create user. So let's go into the factory for the user. If you don't have it, just create one. And we already have factory registered for the user. It's empty now. So let's put some content in it. First, let's create an email. And we want every user to have a unique email. And the syntax for creating unique emails with factory girl is sequence, and just put email here, and open the block. In double quotes, put something like email and hash and curly brace and inside. Okay, this allows us to inject the string with some Ruby code. Okay, and we need to also add the password. No. And password confirmation. I think it's confirmation. They have to match. Okay, let's save that and go back to our post spec. And before we create our instance variable, let's use our factory girl and create user. Okay, so they happen to be the same, but this first one is the variable and the second one is the name of the factory. So right here. So if we go here, we can actually change this user to something else, like new user, or maybe Henry. Maybe our new user is Henry. But I like to keep them the same. It's less confusing. Okay, and here, instead of using the whole class, we just say user posts create, just like that. And we write the test, it should be valid. And maybe we add some more tests. For example, describe when content is not present before post content equals nil, and that should not be valid. Oh, by the way, whenever we say it should be valid in this syntax, we need to make sure that there is a subject for this test. So let's set the subject to add the post, just like that. Let's run the test. And that's exactly what we want. The error message that we're getting here is that there is undefined method posts for the user object. And that's correct, because right now the user doesn't know what posts are. There is no relationship between user model and the post model. And to fix that, we go to our user factory. We go to our user model right here, and we write that the user, we already have a user, has many posts, and we use plural form of posts because it can have many posts, and in the post model we say that it belongs to user. So the relationship is expressed by leaving the user ID into the objects the user own. So imagine if when the user creates a post, what way do we have to find out that this post belonged to a certain user? Well, exactly by that ID. Every time the user will create a post by writing, user.posts.create, that automatically would assign user ID to that post. And then we can use that ID to filter our posts. This is why when we were generating the model, we add user ID integer to the model. So we have the space where we can put the user ID. And when we go back to user spec, we can also write the test to make sure that we cannot create posts that are orphan. They have no user ID. So in this way, we make sure that every post ever created belongs to some user. So let's create that test. When user ID is not present, and before post user ID equals nil, and that should not be valid, so it should not be valid. Okay, you can save that and run the spec again. Okay, so most of the tests are passing, and we have a whole bunch of tests they're still pending in the automatically generated files, but those two are actually good failures, because they say, well, it should not be valid, but it was valid, and so on and so forth. It means the validations are still not in our model. So just before we proceed, let's get rid of all those pending tests. They're kind of annoying. So if we go into our spec folder, in helpers there is the static pages. Let's just make sure that this line is not annoying us. And inside of the views there is static pages, home and contact. We're not gonna use those files at all, so let's delete them. Okay. And controllers, static pages controller, those are quite useless, so let's delete them as well. Okay, run the spec again, and that should leave us, oh, there is one more. Oh, and user. So in models, user, there is a pending. We're gonna write quite a few tests here, but for now let's delete this one. And we are left with those two tests. To make them pass, and again I'm reminding you, those are those two tests. So first one is validating if we cannot save posts with no content, and the other one is user ID. So basically in both tests we want to make sure that only the posts with content and with user ID can be saved. If those two things or either one of those are not present, this post should not be valid. It should not be able to be saved in the database. So how to make them, those two tests pass, how to make sure that those things have to be present? Well, we go back to our model. Okay, so go here and write some validations. So first we're going to validate the user ID, and we're going to validate presence. That's it. We're not going to validate anything else. And if you run the spec again, there's only one test left. It's when the content is not present, it should not be valid. So we're also going to validate content for presence. And now we can run the spec. That's great. So now the test is using the user model to create post. And when we know we have this functionality, we can use it and create some user interface so every user can come and create a post, and we can then do some manipulation with those posts. And for that, let's create another test. So Rails generate integration test, and let's call it posts pages, just like that. And to be very honest, I don't know why it puts it here, and I understand why it puts it here. I couldn't find a way to put it in the right folder. But Capybara, the way we have it set up, it requires it to this file not to be in a folder called requests, but folder called features. We don't have it here, so we create one and go into spec, create new directory, and let's call it features. And let's put that file into the features, just like that. Okay, and open it. Delete this middle section, which is automatically generated. And right here, we're gonna create some stories. First, describe. So post pages. Let's start as a not logged in user. As not in user 2. And we say before visit root path. So we go to the home page and we say it should not have link, and the link would say posts or new post. Okay, and we right at the same time we'll create another test. As in user do, and before gonna visit root path. Oh, we have to put the underscore here, of course. And it should have link new post. Okay, so you see those two lines or those two tests are very similar. The only difference is, oh, sorry, of course, it's not correct. Here we have two lines. Okay, first of all, we're gonna log in as user. Okay, so that's the major difference. Here we're gonna first log in user and visit root path. In order to be able to write this and this to actually do something, we need to add a couple more lines in here. And these are the lines. So basically this allows the device to cooperate with our capybara. And what this will do, it will allow user to log in, and also we can log him out by typing log out user, just like that. The difference is this colon right here if you log out. Okay, let's save that, and we can run the spec. Okay. Now there is undefined variable user. Okay, because we haven't created user, so before those tests, let's create user. Like that. And okay, so one of those two tests was always like if we don't do anything or something's wrong, one of those two tests will fail. And because one is expecting link to be there and one is expecting link not to be there. And because right now we haven't created link, so one of them is okay because the link is not there, and the other one is complaining because it wants the link. So if we create a link and we don't restrict an access to it, the first right now as logged in user should have link. This test is failing. But when we create the link, the other test will fail. But then we restrict the access and they're both gonna pass. So let's go to our homepage, because that's where we're gonna put the link to a new post. Okay, so in views, static page is home. Let's create link. Link to, and we would say new post, comma, and for now we just put the placeholder just like that. Okay, and if you run the spec again, you'll see that this test will now pass, but the other one will fail. Okay. It should have link and it didn't pass. How is that possible? So let's okay, so there is a link post and it should work. Sometimes if you see like something should work and you don't understand why it does not work, sometimes there is a cool way. You can use gem launchy in your gem file. Okay, so just put it here. I think this is how it's spelled. And by using this gem, we can save an open page during the test. So if we go here, we can say save and open page. and when we run the spec, it will stop and open that page for us in the browser, just like that. So yeah, there is a link, new post, and I don't understand why the test is complaining. I must have written something. Oh yes, of course. You see, I'm saying it, and I'm always repeating you that you should set your subject, and I just didn't do it right here. So subject, and the subject here is page, because we testing user interface, and most likely we're going to say page for most of the tests. So let's run the RSpec again. Oh, we can turn this off. Okay, and now the one that is, as a not logged in user, it should not have the link, but the link was there. So in the home page, we can restrict that to only be visible by the logged in users. So we just say if current user, and this means that there is a user that is currently logged in, and just like that. If there is current user, this will be displayed. If there is no current user, nothing will be displayed. And we can run the RSpec again, and it's here. So what do we want to do now is to be able to click on the new post and create and have a form where we can fill out the new post. We can create some content and save that into our database. So what we will do is we're gonna go back to our test, and we just say describe, so as a logged in user, creating new post, and here we would say before do, we're creating new posts, and we probably want to start with invalid information. Describe, here it's say with invalid information, do before, because we're already on the root path, this is where our link is. Before, let's do click link new post, and then click button, save. Okay, we haven't created any form yet, but we'll create the link on the form that will say save, and we'll immediately, after we go to the page, we immediately try to click button save. We don't put any content in, and to us that's incorrect behavior, because we don't want the users to be able to save something with no content, and we already have the validation that the post cannot be saved without the content. So we know this is incorrect behavior of the user, and we want, so after this we want some situation to be triggered. So we want to say it should, so it means the page should have content, and here we would say error. So we want some message to be displayed that says big words error, and then some other messages. Okay, so with invalid information right here, so let's create a new block. Let's just give it a little bit of space so it's better visible, or maybe I'll just make it bigger in case you don't see it correctly. Describe with valid information, do, and before we would click link new post, we fill in content with and then we click link. And page, so it should have content. Maybe you have a post. Save that and run the spec to make sure everything is working fine. Okay, so unable to find button save, unable to find field content. Great. Right now, if we go to our home page, click the link new post, it doesn't go anywhere. It just goes to this hash. And we don't have any new routes because we didn't create new routes. So let's make sure we have some routes first. And go to config, routes, and right here, let's add, there is some examples right here. We just add resources. Posts. Okay, and that's it. So let's save that and run rake routes to see what that gives us. And we want to create new posts. So here is the line. We want to have a post controller action new, and the path is here. So new underscore post underscore path. So we know what the link should say. And if we go to the home page, we can now change this hash to new post path. And if we run the spec, it will now complain that there is no post controller. Well, there is none, we need to create it. So Rails Rails generate controller posts. And there is a method to skip the generating the test files. I can never remember. So I'll just by hand this time I'll just delete those pending tests. And that created a whole bunch of tests that I don't need. In helpers, there is a test. In views, there is no. In controllers, there is tests here, but it's empty. That's fine. Great. And if we run the spec again, now it will complain about something else. It will complain that there is. Oh, it's still complaining about the posts. That's strange because, oh, sorry. Oh, I didn't scroll far enough. Let me just turn off. That's my wife sending me messages. Okay, so here, right here, we say, it says that there is no new action for a post controller. So let's go back to the post controller and create it. And under app, controllers, right here, there is a post controller and it's empty. And we can now define new. And it will still fail because there is no template. In views, posts, we can create new HTML ERB. So the names will have to match. So in the controller, the action is called new, so the view also has to have the same name. Okay, so there is no form, so there is no buttons, no content fields, etc. And we can create form right here. Okay, say form for, and here will be something, and to, yeah. Okay, actually let's say post. Post like this, and we have to close that. And let's put some content inside. So first let's do the submit button. So F submit, and the name on the button will be save, just like in our test. And let's also put the label for our content input, as well as the text field, or maybe text area, because it's going to be bigger. And we can also specify the number of rows we want. So say 6 rows. Okay, and here if we save that, try to run the test, we'll get an error because this variable doesn't exist anywhere. It hasn't been defined in our controller. So we have to specify, we have to define what this variable is inside of our controller. So in here we have to say post equals post.new, or we could say current user posts create built. Yeah, that's what we have to type. Or we can actually do it on the whole class, just like we did the standard way. Okay, it really depends on the logic. Sometimes we may need this association right here, or sometimes we don't have it. We don't need it. So right here we can run the spec. Okay, so the first action, as a logged in user, create a new post with invalid information. It's complaining there is no action create inside of the posts controller. So let's go and create one. And action create doesn't have its own template, so we have to redirect somewhere. Redirect to root path. Oh, here we say click link save, and it's of course not a link, it's a button. So if we go back here, I just need to change this to button. Okay, so let's look after this error message. First of all, we don't have this error message. The first test is complaining about lack of error message. So let's create one. In the create action, we can flash, and we have only 2 flash messages defined. This is what we did during setting up the device. It's really not a very nice way to do it right here. We're gonna refactor this, but right now it's good enough. So first one is called notice, and the other one is alert. So we're gonna use alert. Okay, so alert, and we would say error. Actually, we have to use double quotes if we want to use apostrophe. save anything. Okay, try again. Okay, and that should take care of the first error. And it did. Now we have to do the success. We have to do it, we have to take care of the situation where everything works as it should. So here we're going to rebuild our post, and we're going to use current user posts create, and we're going to use posts params. Okay, in post params we have to define. In Rails 4 we have to use something called strong parameters, and we would do it as a private method. And here we say params require permit content. Okay, and now we can use that in here. It has to have the same name, of course. Post params, and we say if at post save is successful, then we flash something like that. Oh, no, go back. Okay, we just say, I don't know, I don't remember what we specified. You have created a post. Okay, it's fine. And you just paste that in here and redirect to root path, or else we're going to flash alert and we're going to render new so that they can try again. Let's run the spec, and everything is passing now. And if you don't believe me, you can go back here, and if we have been signed out, logged out, we can log in again. Yeah, I need to reset my server, it's running pretty slow. Okay, and new post, that takes us to the form. It's kind of ugly, we'll fix it in next episodes. And here we can put this is my first post. If we save that, there's alert message and it goes to our database, but doesn't really display anything. So on the home page, under new posts, we can list all the posts that we have created. And to do that, and we just go to the home page right here, and we say if the current user, we not only show this link, but we also are gonna say like this, add posts, or sorry, say add current user posts each do p. I mean, you can use any other variable. I like to use the first letter of the word. And here we would say p content. Okay, in the paragraph. And we can refresh. And there is our first post. We can also add created ads so everybody can see when the post was created. And we can do it maybe like that, just simply, very simply for now. P created ads, and then after that we just do the break. See, and we can now create new post. This is our and now we have two. And you can try register 2 different accounts and try to creating posts for each user, and you will see that you can only see the post that you created by yourself, because each post will have the ID of the user who created it, and here on the home page we're displaying only the ones that belong to the user that created those posts. Okay, this is it in this episode. It was pretty long. In the next one I'll show you how to do more with your posts and also how to see posts of other users. Thank you very much. See you soon.